Why, hello, Midway Piper here. I hope all is going well. It's been a little while since I made a video. It's My parents and brother were in town. They were staying with us for since last week. They just left this morning, and wisely, I took a bonus day off of work. So, just catching up on things, running around like an idiot today. That's okay. Before I get into it, we'll do housekeeping. This is the exact opposite of what I intended on smoking today. But it's hot. It's very hot. And what I really wanted was some sort of Gawith and Hogarth in a pot or billiard shaped pipe. And instead, I have the Missouri Meerschaum Bing's Favorite, made in conjunction with Country Squire. A much longer pipe than I normally like. And in it, I have some Rivertown Tobacco Sunset Velvet, which is like a fruity topping, tropical fruity. It's like I said, pretty much the exact opposite of what my initial aim was, but here we are. So, wanted to jump in with a quick reading update. I did not get too much read or listened to audiobook wise. I did finish a book just before my family got here last Thursday night. It was called The Bee Sting, I believe. I showed it in a previous video not too long ago. Picked it up at the library sale. I heard some good things about it. It was pretty long. It was about 600 pages, I think it was. And it was okay at the beginning. And then about halfway through, I found myself wishing the book would wrap up. Couldn't quite tell where the book was heading. It seemed to be sort of endlessly spinning its wheels. Just continuing to do a deep dive on characters I was not super invested in. And if it was characters I really liked, that would be something different. But I didn't feel too invested in any of the characters. So I was starting to lose patience with it. And then the book took a direction that was just unnecessary. Turned out that the father of the two kids who are struggling starts to rehash his days in college when he essentially began to have a gay love affair. And his exploits as a gay lover in his younger days. I don't care what you're into. I don't need to read about it, hear about it. Same with anyone, really. It doesn't. It's your life. Whatever. Do what you want. But no, I don't need it. I stuck with the book. I was more than halfway through. I kept going. Then the end was just such a letdown. It was a massively open-ended ending where something big could have happened, but they just stopped writing and let you guess or feel out whatever you think might have happened. Building up crazy suspense, and then you hear, "Thanks for reading." I was pissed. I think I gave that book 2 stars, maybe 1 star. I think I gave it 1 star. Very disappointed in that book. I included that with the box of books that I dropped off at the local library for a library sale. I will not be recommending that book to anyone. Very disappointing. It's like 600 pages again, so not happy when that happens. But I did pick up a couple other books, a couple new books. The first book I picked up that I plan on getting to soon. I thought it was coming out later this year, but I got an email this morning, and since I had the day off, I said, I know where I'm going. And I ran over to the bookstore. It's the newest Mark Cameron novel, Deadline. This is part of the Arliss Cutter novel series. These are so enjoyable. They're Alaskan mystery series. And I love this series. It is so good. I think this is book 5 or 6 in the series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Book 7 in the series. Wow. I have them all in hardback. As you can see, they're not super big books. I'm not going to read you what the book is about because it's book 7 in the Arliss Cutter series. If you like murder mysteries, if you like stories that take place in Alaska, if you like crime novels, like good characters, good character work, Mark Cameron's Arliss Cutter series. Pick it up, check it out, good stuff. Also, if you're an audio person, these books are narrated very, very well. It is the same narrator as the C.J. Box Joe Pickett series. So, if you're familiar with those at all as well, they're a good time, good stuff. So I'm excited to jump into this book. I actually don't even really know what it's about, but it's Mark Cameron, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. So, well, there we are. Deadline. Want to give you guys a quick update on something. So I mentioned in a previous video about my Apple Watch. I showed you the screen and how it had popped out of the watch. And I think I mentioned in a follow-up video how Apple said, that sucks. Too bad. No trade-in value for it. But we'll sell you a new watch for $420. And I walked out. I think I also mentioned that I put some Gorilla Glue under the screen in hopes that would keep the screen in place because, well, I wasn't going to wear the watch with the screen flapping around. And if the glue killed off the watch, they weren't going to give me anything for it anyways. I'm pleased to announce it's still working. It's staying in. The screen still works. See? Hey. And all I did, I think I did a pretty darn good job, except for the glare. I just put a little bit of super glue along the seam of the screen. And it's still working. So take that. I don't need a $400 replacement watch. So there. How's that? Anyways, back to the topic at hand. two other quick books to show you. They are both from the same New York Review Book Classics series. Both of these authors I heard about from a booktube channel that I watch. The name is unfortunately escaping me at the moment. I'll drop a link to it down below. The first is Hard Rain Falling by Don Carpenter. And I heard his character work is phenomenal. I've even heard him described as the American Dostoevsky, and I am a huge Dostoevsky fan. So, what is Hard Rain Falling about? I don't know, I haven't started it yet, but I'll read you the back. Hard Rain Falling is a tough-as-nails account of being down and out, but never down for good. A Dostoevskian tale of crime, punishment, and the pursuit of an ever-elusive redemption. The novel follows the adventures of Jack Levitt, an orphan teenager living off his wits in flea-bag hotels and seedy pool halls of Portland, Oregon. Jack befriends Billy Lansing, a young black runaway and pool hustler extraordinaire. A heist gone wrong gets Jack sent to reform school, from which he emerges embittered by abuse and solitary confinement. In the meantime, Billy has joined the middle class, married father to son, acquired a business and a mistress. But neither Jack nor Billy can escape their troubled pasts, and they will meet again in San Quentin before the strange double drama comes to a violent and revolutionary end. Hard Rain Falling. So that's on my short list of books to read. And then I also picked up In the Heart of the Country by William Gass. First published in 1968, In the Heart of the Country established William Gass as one of America's finest and boldest writers of fiction. And nearly 50 years later, the book still stands as a landmark to contemporary fiction. The two novellas and three short stories it contains are all set in the Midwest, and together they offer a mythical reimagining of America's heartland, with its punishing extremes of heat and cold, its endless spaces and claustrophobic households, its hidden and baffled desires, its lurking threat of violence. Exploring and expanding the limits of the short story, Gass works magic with words that are squirming, regal, and unexpected as the roaches, boys, icicles, neighborhoods, and neuroses of these that fill these pages, works that shock, dazzle, illumine, and delight. So there we are. They're both part of the New York Book Review. And they all have... The camera's not want to focus today. There we go. They all have spines that look very similar. So I got getting a small collection of these on my bookshelf. So that's that. And then finally, I think I had mentioned in a previous video, I had been watching some video interviews with Jack Dorsey, one of the founders of Twitter. And one of the co-founders of Square, which is now turned into Block, and all their Bitcoin and blockchain work that they're doing. I find him to be a very interesting person. I love listening to the interviews, but I really do feel like a lot of it goes way over my head. He's obviously very knowledgeable in the work that he does. And, I think the majority of people that got into Twitter and think of Jack Dorsey in that regard think of him more of like a Mark Zuckerberg kind of deal. But he's much more of a cyberpunk hacker kind of person. And sort of worked and co-created Twitter as a sort of a revolutionary way to communicate with each other. I think a lot of people forget how I want to say revolutionary again, but how unique that communication setup was at the time. And how the Twitter that we know essentially came about from feedback from users. And he talks a lot about how the creation of Twitter as a publicly traded company with a CEO of any sort really began to limit what it was capable of, because it had there was always a bottleneck. There was always somebody in place who would make decisions, and that limited the free usage of the application. And then, of course, the way that the model that they ended up going with for advertising as a source of income, and all the problems that brought about. And so listening to him talk, and with what he's doing with Block right now, and a lot of the blockchain stuff, and why are so many people still so bullish on Bitcoin. And to be honest, the only thing I really know about it is it's some sort of online currency alternative, I guess. Speculative in a way that I don't understand, meaning that it doesn't move with the stock market, it doesn't move against the stock market. And by that, all I mean is if the stocks go up, Bitcoin doesn't go up, and if stocks go down, that's no guarantee Bitcoin will go down. It just kind of does its own thing. But now seeing, and this goes for all the cryptocurrencies, seeing the value of Bitcoin skyrocket from what it was, I don't get it. And so I got a couple books to help me start to understand a little bit about what all that stuff means. So I am listening to an audiobook about it right now. It's more of a sort of a primer. It's an introduction to describing, just sort of wrapped up the section describing what money actually is and the history of monetary systems, roughly speaking. And it's just starting to get into what is blockchain and how does the Bitcoin system work, which I'm finding very interesting. So I'm listening to that on Audible, and I also started reading this book, The Truth About Crypto. And I'm this far into it, so I've read all this. So I've been reading this over the last couple days. Still have a while to go on it. But again, very interesting stuff. In a way, so in this book he starts describing why there's so many crypto coins, currency coins. And he describes it kind of like when you go to the grocery store and you look at all the different types of ketchup or all the different types of mustard that they have on the shelf. They're all essentially the same thing with different additions and subtractions. And so that's kind of what he's talking about to explain the different types of cryptocurrencies. So interesting stuff. This is still very much still in the infancy of my understanding of all this stuff. When you hear about people that are in the know talk about this stuff, it's very interesting, and they see the future, they see it. So I want to get to understand better and hopefully be able to figure out what the heck they're talking about better. So that's that. I also picked up Blockchain Revolution, how technology behind Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is changing the world. There's definitely going to be applications of blockchain going forward that go way beyond just cryptocurrencies. Contracts can be written in blockchain. And from a landlord perspective, and if you are a renter perspective, an application that I've heard about that is very intriguing to me is the idea of leases through blockchain. So essentially, meaning that a contract, I should say, through blockchain. So essentially, in the lease application, is that a landlord and a tenant, and this is done through the Ethereum blockchain. This is not Bitcoin. But in theory, a landlord and a tenant could both co-sign a contract to rent an apartment from a landlord. And the tenant is obligated to pay said landlord said rent or agreed upon rent. And if they do not, the lock on their door no longer responds to their code until rent is paid. And that's a very interesting concept, because I know for landlords, it is becoming, especially in cities, it's becoming more and more difficult for landlords to actually receive payment from tenants. The requirements to get a tenant removed from an apartment is becoming exponentially harder and taking longer and costing more. So the idea of this type of contract where if you don't pay, your door doesn't open, it's very intriguing to me. So I do want to learn more about blockchain. I do think, from what I understand about it, that an increasing amount of our future interactions are going to be done through blockchains, especially as banks and all get more involved in this blockchain stuff, because they're not going to miss the boat on it. They can't own something like, I mean, they can own Bitcoins, but they can't own the blockchain for Bitcoin. They can create their own blockchains, though, and do transactions their own way. So I think it's going to be increasingly important to understand that whole process. And then the final book I picked up is The Bitcoin Standard. So why it is that Bitcoin has been so wildly successful. So yeah, those are the books I picked up recently. Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, that's all I got for today. It's been a longer video again, shockingly. Welcome back. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this pipe and then go back inside to some air conditioning because it's hot as hell out here. It is, what is it? 93 degrees. That does not count for the humidity. So I believe it's like 102 with humidity. So it is heavy and dense out here. But that's it. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.